listening to Planet Vero Radio. We are broadcast on iHeartRadio. We are also on Spreaker podcast. This is Patient Partners. I am Cindy Schwartz, and I have on Skype with me today my co-host Jeannie Roller, and I also have John and Lynn on, who John was a victim of patient harm for a procedure that he really didn't get a lot of information about, and also that when he woke up, he really didn't know what he should have known that he didn't know. So how do you know that? It's kind of a vicious circle. And his wife, Lynn, has been his caregiver and his helper all along to get him through this horror and this trauma, as well as Jeannie Roller, my co-host, whose husband had it happen to him. And so it is not just the patient that this happens to. It is the spouses, the family, everyone around you. And the harm has to stop. I mean, we have to find an even keel here to be able to talk about it so we can come to terms with it, because it is happening. We're not lying. These things happened. So, Jeannie Roller, thoughts?
Well, as a spouse, I feel extremely guilty. I didn't know what was happening, but yet I also feel very guilty because I didn't protect him. I feel guilty because I can't erase those memories from his mind. I can't erase those memories from my mind. Every day is a struggle, knowing what he had to endure at the hands of those doctors and those female nurses raping him. It is something that you don't get over. I know that he won't seek future medical care because of the medical and sexual assault that he suffered. So every day, I know that could be his last day because of the medical harm that he went through.
Mm-hmm. And there's PTSD. There's all kinds of trauma, medical trauma. It's unreal what goes on. And no one really seems to, and the four of us together have talked to quite a few avenues in different states. I mean, Jean, you're in Indiana. Lynn and John, you're in other states. We've talked to a lot of people, senators, heads of hospitals, Joint Commission. We've talked to Department of Health, on and on and on. And they're like, nope, that doesn't happen. We don't treat patients like that.
Right. They don't care. I mean, no one will admit that this harm is happening.
And and in nursing homes is another one I want to bring up. Is just unreal. So, Lynn, what about for you and John? You're the spouse, Lynn. How has this been for you?
I'll echo what Jeannie said about the guilt. Mine goes a little bit beyond that because I was molested by a doctor as a young girl, and I just always buried that for decades. And then when my husband endured what he did with his surgery, it triggered PTSD in me severely, to the point where, anything medical related, I'm very hyper vigilant to. Just even seeing someone wear a surgical mask these days. So you can imagine how hard it was. It's been for me going through COVID, just having to see someone wearing a surgical mask is a trigger.
Yes.
But it was to the point, I couldn't be there for him. So I know, Jeannie, you were there for your husband. I was not able to even be there for him. So he had to endure this completely by his own.
Because his surgery was during the COVID time, so there was different stipulations.
Well, that and the fact that I couldn't do it.
Okay.
I just, go to the hospital and see these people again, and so that's additional guilt that I'll always bear. In addition to not being able or not being there to help him, or just not being able to protect him because of the additional violation that I had endured. It still makes me even more helpless. So, we're dealing not only with, his fallout and dealing with trying to get justice for him, but also trying to make them understand what they do to sexual assault survivors. I didn't even endure it primarily. This is secondhand, and I can see what it's doing to me.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, you're right. I don't think they really care. or else they would be making changes. And you know, when my husband confronted the surgeon about it, and she says, you know, I get it, talking about the need for modesty, and that's just so insulting because apparently she does not get it like she claims that she does.
Well, it's
So
like
it's just
lip service.
slap in the face.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's not modesty, it's dignity. That's it.
Right.
And when they start talking modesty, you know that they do not understand.
Well, modesty puts it back on. We've had the conversation before, Jeannie and I. Modesty puts it back on you. Like you have a problem, patient, because you don't want to be naked in front of a room full of people. That's not it at all. It shouldn't be done that way anyway.
No.
It
shouldn't. Modesty is not a mental health issue as they try to make it out to be. Mm-hmm. Personal dignity is different. Everyone has the right to personal dignity. And if you do need to be fully exposed, they need to let you know that beforehand, but they don't want you to know it beforehand.
Well, we've talked about it too, that they drug you up. So therefore, I mean, that was the reasoning they gave to me. You're under anesthesia. It doesn't matter. And
one of the side effects of Versed is it makes you uninhibited. So that is the other reason why they give it to you. Mm-hmm. Not only does it make you uninhibited, but it supposedly will erase most people's memories of the whole thing. But my husband's case, it didn't.
And a lot of people's cases, it doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, it's really sad. So, I mean, that's what a domino effect all of this is. It's not just the patient. Okay, we're going to wheel the patient in, do what we want to it, blah, 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 blah. Wheel them back at, call it a day. Next number, like a deli counter. It's all the repercussions of the family and the whole bit that suffer. And it goes on and on and on when there is no admittance to it, when there's no trying to right the wrongs. And these are wrongs, in my opinion. They're definitely wrongs.
Right. And I want to interject in there. We are not just talking about a nurse that needs to physically help someone maybe use a bedpan. Mm-hmm. This isn't what we're talking about. We're talking about nurses or doctors who purposely sexually exploit patients by exposing them unnecessarily or using them as objects of entertainment, like my husband was used as an object of entertainment.
Right.
So that's different from medical care that is necessary. Very different.
Mm-hmm. And it's also different from, we understand, all of us, that doctors, nurses, any medical technician or whatever make mistakes. These are not mistakes. They're, from what we see, intentional.
Yeah, it is intentional harm.
Yeah, I'm so sick of hearing that standard operating procedure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so sick of that. They hide behind that and policy. Well, that doesn't mean that it's right. It just means there have been a whole lot of people violated in the name of policy.
Right.
Exactly.
Or they hope that the people don't do what we're doing right now and speaking up, that they forget it, put it away. Okay, we're trying to forget it too, but you can't forget a lot of this stuff. I mean, it's just too heinous.
Yeah, you can't forget it. Something that's burned into my memory when he recounted what happened, when I heard him cry.
Yeah.
Like, I've never heard anyone cry. You don't forget that. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure, Lynn, you're like that too. You will never forget what happened to your husband. You know what happened.
Just lying next to him in bed at night, and I look over there and I see him lying on his back, and I all of a sudden these visions pop into my head. Is that what he looked like while he was on the table and they were shaving his groin while he didn't know it and touching his genitals when he didn't know it? And it's just... it gets so bad. So, I end up having to get out of bed and come sleep on the couch just because the visions and they just get too much.
And I really appreciate everyone coming on and talking. The listeners, this stuff is real. This is not how you treat medical patients.
Real life. It's real trauma. It didn't have to happen.
No, it didn't have to happen. You've been listening to Planet Vero Radio. Please stay tuned.